So welcome to part 9, and I think I'll just make this 30 minutes long, right? I'll make it 30 minutes long because I want to finish the rest very quickly. So up onto the right track, so your train of thought. So neuro-linguistic programming is basically saying that through our 5 senses, we perceive language differently. So there's some people who are more visual, some more auditory, some more tactile or kinesthetic. And your goal is to find out which your audience is, or rather, if you're speaking to an audience, try and express yourself using terms that appeal to all of the audience. And if you're with a person, you can more of try to figure out which one they are individually. So people who are like visual, they'll say things like, I don't really see that working out, or yeah, that's things look bright, or I see things going my way, or that's a clear plan, or it seems foggy. But people who are auditory will be like, that doesn't sound very good, or that's more my tune, or I'm not about that jazz. People who are kinesthetic, who feel things, they'll be like, yeah, that's a solid plan, right? So you see that different people, one can say, I see that's a detailed plan. Another one will say, hey, that's a solid plan, right? That plan feels solid. So you get what I mean? Each of us processes language differently through our 5 senses. So that's the neuro part. And the linguistic part is obviously the language, the programming. There's a whole other side to neuro-linguistic programming. But anyway, the part that interests me and that interests us is the part in terms of getting to relate to other people. And now, why did I say it's also good for lie spotting? So with eye movement, again, this neuro-linguistic programming, if someone looks up and, okay, basically, let me start it this way. If someone looks to the left, they are recalling something. If someone looks to the right, they are imagining something. So if they look up to the left, they're recalling something that they saw. If they're looking straight, like to the left, like to the ears, they're recalling something they heard. They're looking down to the left, they're recalling a feeling they had, right? If they're looking to the right, so up to the right, diagonally up, they're imagining something. Again, to the right ear, so straight to the right, they're imagining like how something would sound. Down to the right, they're imagining a feeling, right? So imagination can be seen as lying. So if you ask someone a question, you want to see, do they look up to the left? That's the most common one, up to the left or up to the right. If they look up to the left, then they're telling the truth because they're recalling it. If they look to the right, they're lying to you. Of course, this is slightly confusing because they're facing you, right? So from your perspective, if the eye goes to the right from your perspective, then they're telling the truth. If it goes to the left, then they're imagining something. Yeah, that's an easy way to catch someone lying. So, it's so funny because my mom when she'd ask me questions, I'd always stare at the ceiling and she's like, why are you staring at the ceiling? There's nothing there. But she doesn't realize. I tried explaining to her, it's neuro-linguistic programming that when you look up to the left, our brain is literally physically recalling details, right? So animators kind of do this. They subconsciously know this, but they don't realize it. Like when they draw characters looking, the eyes looking at different directions. Yeah, they they kind of they should read the book. But yeah, that's another way to tell if someone's lying, and it's an easy way, it's a quick way. So far in this audio, in these audios, I've given you like what, five different easy ways to spot if someone's lying just by looking at them. So that's why I told you, like, if I talk to anyone for 8 minutes, I'll pretty much have figured them out. Cause yeah, pretty much I've figured them out. Um, the rest of the book talks about how you can use neuro linguistic programming to help and motivate yourself, I think through affirmation quotes or something like that. But that part's kind of boring. I think if you look straight up, you're also trying to recall a smell, or yeah, you're trying to either recall a smell or figure out what something smells like. Yeah. The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Uh, I don't think I finished the book, but there's one thing he said, which is there's this experiment. He said you should try and contact three famous celebrities and just get a response. Obviously, it won't work, but he's trying to illustrate that maybe it's not that difficult to contact people. And there's another guy called Mike Murdoch who says that you're only 7 people away from everyone in the world. So you know someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows Mark Zuckerberg, or who knows Obama, or who knows Xi Jinping, or who knows Roger, is it Roger Federer or something like that? Yeah, so once you understand that you're not that far away from people, it's supposed to open up possibilities. It's supposed to make you realize if you play your cards right, you could probably network your way into any circle you imagine. Not easily, of course, but it's not that difficult. And that exercise, which I highly recommend you do, of trying to contact three celebrities, you won't get a response, most likely, but do it and it'll trigger something in your body which makes you think, okay, I didn't get a response, but it wasn't that hard to try. So it makes you picture actually being able to contact certain people someday, right? So my goal eventually, if I leave Kenya, if I don't leave Kenya, then I'm screwed. I would like to eventually talk to Patrick Bet David and Manny Koshbin, and the guy who wrote Commercial Real Estate Investing, and maybe even that Dolph guy who wrote 52 Homes in 52 Weeks. I would really like to have a conversation with those guys, especially if I've started my own business. If I've given up on entrepreneurship at that time, then there's no point in talking to them. But yeah, those are guys I would like to talk to. And I think it's possible to happen. And maybe Bill Gates, I want to talk to him about reading Guns, Germs, and Steel. There's actually a 3-part documentary on YouTube, so you don't have to read it. Yeah. Think and Grow Rich, very good book on money. I didn't even finish it, and I don't agree. I finished it later, but I don't agree with everything that it says. But the one thing I agree that it says is that it talks about desire, that if you want to be rich, you have to really believe it. You have to really desire to be filthy rich, like filthy, like Elon Musk level rich. That's the level of desire you have to have if you want to achieve something, like really, really desire it. And it's the book that kind of told me that all these side hustle ideas are just a scam. Because here's the thing, it's like if you're doing something part time and someone else is doing it full time, see, of course, the guy who's doing it full time is going to get more customers, right? So it really taught me just to have that desire, like to really just picture being rich, like picture owning those Ferraris, picture owning those mansions, like I picture owning a mansion in Sydney, in London, in Los Angeles. I have a list of cars that I want. I'm gonna have like 5 cars at each of those locations. I'm gonna have that F40, that Enzo, that 458 Speciale. Those are all Ferrari cars. That DB11, that right now I'm dead broke, by the way. I finished my degree. I'm stuck in Nairobi. I'm dead broke. I don't know if I'm getting a visa, but I still picture having that, that Aston, that Lamborghini Aventador S Super Veloce, and maybe not really a Porsche fan. They look ugly from the back, except the Carrera GT that killed Paul Walker. Very, very sexy car. Probably top 3 sexiest cars ever made. The 2 cars I really want are either the DB11, which is like the best car that's ever been built, or the Lamborghini Aventador Super Veloce Roadster. I really want those cars. The point is, even if you don't get those cars, the fact that you think about it, or you don't get that house, the fact that you think about it means you aim higher, because you should shoot for the stars and land on the moon. They say the phrase the other way around, but I think that's the best way to think of it, because the stars are very far away. So yeah, you might not reach the stars, but you'll reach the moon. So even if I don't get those things, right, I might still succeed in other ways. Even if I don't start a business, I might become CEO. Like the guy who right now is middle management probably wanted to be CEO, and the guy who's lower level management wanted to be middle level management. You get what I mean? Like the guy who's mid level management, he was the guy who's like reading books. He's like, I want to be CEO, I want to be at the top, but they're like, oh, you're not good enough. You just have to stay at middle management, right? And the guy who's at lower management is like, oh, I work so hard, I at least deserve to be middle management. But they're like, no, you don't deserve middle management, you're lower. So that's what I mean. You always have to aim higher than what you plan on achieving, right? Aim as high as you possibly can. Dream big as possible. Back in my day, Bill Gates was worth 50 billion. And I'm like, yeah, 50 billion, that sounds good. I want to be there someday. I want to have that 50 billion, I want to have like 3 jets. I want to have that yacht, right? And I think that was part of what they were saying in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, as well as the 1 Minute Millionaire, is that essentially if you think big, you're gonna act different, right? Because obviously you're gonna do different things. Like for example, I'm not sure how many billionaire yoga instructors are there, right? So obviously, if you plan on being a billionaire, you might not choose being a yoga instructor as your first career option, right? So it means you take more steps. You're like, okay, let me start with a business degree or an IT degree. Maybe I'll do a master's. Maybe I'll go to a good uni. Maybe I'll teach myself accounting. Maybe I'll teach myself about stocks, right? Maybe I'll teach myself about real estate. So here's the thing, it's not guaranteed that I'll be rich, but the fact that I believe, right? The fact that I believe that it is possible for me to become a billionaire, that guarantees that I will be richer than my friends. For example, I can guarantee you when I get money, because I don't have money at the moment, when I get money, I guarantee I will make more money from stocks than my friends, because none of them are even looking at that stuff. They don't even know what the difference between an NFT and an ETF is. I mean, it's really funny if you know the difference. If you know the difference, that is like the worst comparison you can make. Like a non-fungible token is like a digital piece of art that you can sell. An ETF is an exchange traded fund, so it's like a stock or like a collection of stocks. So very, very different. So I can guarantee that I would make more money than them. So you have to, it's not even about competing with other people, it's just about competing with yourself. And the question is, who would be better off? Like, would you be better off believing you can be rich or believing you won't amount to much, right? So I believe I would rather believe I'll end up rich, and then maybe I'll end up somewhere in the middle. Maybe I'll end up just with a job, but I guarantee I'll have at least made like $1,000 from stocks, at least. You know, if someone said they would pay you $1,000 you know, to read like 60 books or maybe 5 books, because you only need to read like the 5 books on money, would you do it? I think I would. So if I do end up making at least $1,000, which I wouldn't have made by knowing about money and becoming more financially literate, then to me it means those 5 books are worth it. It at least means I got my investment back from buying those books. Those are just my thoughts. Uh, Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy and Who Moved My Cheese. I can't remember what Who Moved My Cheese is about, but Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy is, it's about like time management and organizational skills. And he says you should do the worst thing first. So that's the whole eating the frog thing, right? And the way I think of it is like if you have a bowl of chili and a bowl of ice cream, you wanna eat the chili before the ice cream. Like, I mean, real chili, not like chili con carne. You eat the chili first, then the ice cream, not the other way around. So he's saying try and tackle your biggest issues first and then move on, right? Try and tackle your biggest issues first and then move on. But to me, I think it also applies as a social principle, right? In the sense that I think if you're meeting someone new, before you necessarily bond with them, try and get the big things out of the way, right? For me, some of the big things are like, do you like anime? Do you like philosophy? Do you like politics? Do you like alt rock? Alt rock is God's music, man. It's the music of the gods anyway. Do you like comics? I'd rather get those out of the way rather than spending time bonding on other small things only to find out, this person doesn't like anime, this person doesn't like comics, this person doesn't like entrepreneurship. As a social principle, it doesn't yield many results, but there is results it does yield amazing, right? So it kind of helps you filter out because you only have like 100 years on this planet. Do you really want to spend them with people you're not, you're barely interested in talking to, like you just vaguely have a few things in common with? So even though it's a time management principle, I think it can be applied to books as well. Yeah, the way of this, but the Who Moved My Cheese book, I know it's a short book, and Brian Tracy is one of my favorite authors. Probably top 5, definitely top 10, maybe top 7 for sure. Top 7, yeah. Way of the Superior Man by David Yeda. He talks a lot about masculine and feminine energy. I mean, that's kind of political these days, but it's more of heteronormative relationships. I think it's basically trying to say the more masculine you are, the more you'll attract feminine women, and that the more feminine a woman is, the more she'll attract masculine, like men. I mean, that very political. I mean, if this was the year 2000, this would be a very easy discussion to have. I'm not saying women can't be more masculine or men can't be more feminine, but he talks a lot about masculine and feminine energy. And he says, like, for example, women want things to continue while men want things to stop. So, for example, with women, when it comes to sex, they really enjoy foreplay, right? For men, when it comes to sex, we just want to jizz as fast as we can. So the two energies balance each other out. You have some foreplay and then some ejaculation, right? So there's that sort of energy. Or even with men want to sleep with as many women as they possibly can. Women want to have just one man. So the two energies balance each other out. And that's why we have, maybe you date 4 to 10 people before you get married. So he talks about how these energies balance out each other, how they negate each other, and what you can do as a man. Well, yeah, it's more for men. I mean, it's titled Way of the Superior Man. What you can do as a man to draw more feminine energy towards you, right? Again, I don't want to say too much because it's probably at some point I'm going to sound politically incorrect. I'm like, oh, but how dare you say that? And, I'm just reviewing a book. I don't shoot the messenger. How to read anyone, says what the book says. How to change anyone. Then there's also there's instant analysis, and there's another one called How to Get Anyone to Like You. Where is it? It's there. So it's probably right under my nose. Millionaire Stoicism, Today Matters. It's not there. Interesting. Very interesting. That's actually the more important book by, let's see, How to Get Anyone to Like You by David J. Lieberman. Wow. So I can't even remember what You Can Read Anyone is about, but I'm assuming it's a combination of body language and psychology. I'll have to cut this video short because I'm needed elsewhere. But yeah, the next audio I'll definitely finish everything.